welcome back to my kitchen. If you're new here, my name is Jennifer, and I just want to say thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to be making some chicken fried steak, and I'm going to serve it up with homemade mashed potatoes, peas, and pepper gravy. You're going to want to start off with your cube steaks. Now you can use chicken and you can use pork. Chicken would be chicken fried chicken, and pork would be country fried steak. If this looks like a lot, it is a lot. I have a family of 6, and I think when I put my grocery order in, I ordered the family packs, because normally it only comes 4 or 5 to a package. But I digress. Leftovers tomorrow. You're going to want to season your steaks really well. I'm using salt, black pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder. All of those seasonings are to taste. You could put some paprika on these, but I'm going to put that in the flour mixture. Just make sure you season them well. Normally these cube steaks are a little bit thinner. This time some of them are almost an inch thick. I probably could have used a meat mallet on them, but I was in a hurry on this night. It was already getting pretty late, so I'm just going with the flow. When you get done seasoning your meat, make sure you flip it over and do the same thing to the other side. Now you're going to want 2 separate plates or shallow bowls. And in one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scramble up about 4 eggs. If you're not doing this many steaks, you won't need that many eggs. A couple will do the job. But I'm using 4, and I actually ended up doing 2 more before I was done breading the steaks. In your other bowl, you're going to use a couple cups of all-purpose flour, and then we're going to season our flour because flour alone has absolutely 0 flavor. So to this, I'm going to add a healthy amount of paprika, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. Again, seasonings are to taste. Add as much or as little as you like. And then I'm going to make sure I stir up the flour really well so that the seasonings are all combined. Now when you're breading your meat, you want to make sure you put it in the flour first and kind of pat it in. This is a steak that has been run through a machine that kind of jabs little holes in it. So you kind of want to pack the flour on there. The flour gives the egg something to hold on to. And we're going to dip it in the egg and then back into the flour. Now, you can do that wet hand, dry hand stuff. I always start off that way and I end up forgetting, so I just don't even bother. Monster fingers by the end of cooking, but that's okay. We can wash our hands. Once you get the flour all packed on real nice, you're going to want to lay your steak on a cookie sheet or another plate to sit and kind of let the flour set. It'll absorb some of that egg and it'll help keep your crust in place when you're frying it. Now I'm not going to show you all of these. I'm just going to show you a couple, but we're going to repeat the process. Flour, then egg, and then back into the flour again, making sure that we pat it on really well. After I get a few steaks breaded and onto the cookie sheet to rest, I go ahead and get my oil going. I'm using Crisco on this day, but use whatever oil you like. You're also going to want a cookie sheet with a rack and a paper towel and a good pair of tongs. Makes it easier to turn them. Once my oil gets to about 350, I'm going to turn the temperature down a little bit and start frying my steaks. And don't worry, if you don't have a kitchen thermometer, just drop a little flour in your oil, and when it sizzles, it's ready. When you're putting your steaks in the pan, make sure you don't overcrowd the pan. When you do that, it cools down the oil and it makes your cooking process take longer. And you also run the risk of getting soggy steaks. So you want them nice and crispy. So you're going to get them in the oil and you're just going to leave them alone. When they look about like this, it's time to flip them. They should be golden brown. As hard as it is, try to resist the urge to flip them more than once. You don't want to risk losing your breading. When your breading is nice and golden brown and the steaks feel firm to the touch, go ahead and remove them to a drain rack and proceed through the rest of them. And it's okay to multitask while you're waiting for your steaks to cook. I'm back behind on the other counter peeling potatoes and getting those going for supper, so just keep an eye on them. You don't want to leave the room with something frying, but it's all right to do other stuff while you wait. Now that all my steaks are done, I'm going to just put this whole pan in my oven on its lowest setting to just keep them warm while I work on the gravy. You can see the blue pot in the background. I finished the mashed potatoes while I was cooking through those steaks. And this oil, I'm going to pour into an old Maxwell House can because, I made so many of these steaks by the time I got done, the oil was gross. So I drained it off and wiped out my pan, and I'm going to start my black pepper gravy. Now I'm using a half a cup of butter. If you're making less steaks, you need less gravy. So it's a 1-to-1. For whatever amount of butter you use, that's the amount of flour you use. So I used half a cup of butter and half a cup of flour. You're going to let your butter melt, and then you're going to add your flour to it. And you're going to want to whisk it up really well, and then kind of cook your flour. You don't want it to get dark, but you want to cook off some of that raw flour taste. So just, a minute or two. Just let your flour and your butter mixture cook on the pan. And at this point, you're going to give it one more good mix, and you're going to add cold milk to your butter mixture, your butter and your flour. Cold milk and hot roux means no lumps. You're just going to add a little bit at a time and whisk it. Let it heat up. Add a little more, whisk it, let it heat up until it's the consistency that you want. I always stop a little shy of exactly where I want it because it will thicken as it sits. And don't forget to add your black pepper and your salt to taste. And this is how I served it on this evening with mashed potatoes and peas. I smothered it in that black pepper gravy, and everybody was happy and enjoyed leftovers on the next day. Some of my family had chicken fried steak sandwiches. I really hope you give this recipe a try. It is a family favorite in this house. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. I post cooking videos every Tuesday and garden vlogs every Friday. Until next time, friends, happy cooking.